Speaking of time, when we do have time, we don't even know what to do with ourselves. Modern life conditions us to constantly seek stimulation. We don't understand the necessity of boredom, that which is the fertilizer of all creativity. So we waste our free time distracting ourselves, because today's world teaches us to disassociate rather than to just be. You ever get this feeling like modern life and all its aspects are based off of lies and falsehoods? Like at every turn within the confinements of modernity is someone trying to sell you something, scam you, or rob you of your time and energy. Low wages, high living expense, unfulfilling jobs, people trying to use you. I'm over it all. And I know that makes me sound like a pessimist. I do see the light in someone's eye and recognize the small things in life that are meaningful and that matter. In fact, what I'm really trying to say is that the small things in life that we take for granted are the most meaningful, and modern life tries to distract us and pull us away from all the meaningful things. The more I unlearn about what I was conditioned to believe was the only way, the more I see so many opportunities for simple, radical changes that we can make. Electricity, for example, we all depend on it so heavily. We have become so maladapted to real reality and the planet that we live on. We rely too much on electricity to change the temperatures in our homes, for example. I know some people that can't even be outside because they cannot adapt to anything but an air-conditioned building. And on top of that, our buildings are made of cheap, inorganic materials that don't last. Why? Because business, that's why. Why make something last when you can purposely make it degrade for future business? We don't hardly build with stone or earth anymore, and most people think that's primitive, and I laugh at them. Building with organic materials made from earth that cost less and are way more available. Now, wouldn't that threaten the establishment? We could incorporate thermal mass into our building design to absorb the sun's heat, to passively heat and cool our homes without the need for electricity or air conditioning. Another thing, we rely too much on refrigeration methods. We could use similar methods as the yakshal, which were ice houses in ancient Iran. It was built of earth and made ice without electricity. The stone of a yakshal absorbs the sun's heat, which acts as a thermal mass and allows all the heat to travel up through the dome and escape, while allowing all the cool air to sink to the bottom. And this allows for a natural evaporative cooling technique to occur, and that basically can create ice. I always wonder, why aren't we using this ancient knowledge here in America, or any part in the world? We rely, like I said, too much on electricity. There are also these things called wind catchers, which were these towers that were incorporated into building designs within ancient Iran that would passively cool buildings based on the design, without the need for air conditioning. Another one of the scams of today is having a bunch of grocery stores sprawled out all over the place. Do we really need 8 different grocery stores in one area and 9 different Dollar Generals? Why not have open market bazaars similar to what you would see with a flea market, but have it to where the farmer sets up and sells directly to the consumer? This leads me to my next scam, which is urban sprawling. I've talked about this in another video. We think that because money is the main motive, we need to constantly expand our businesses all over the world. There is a lack of balance with the ecosystem and the economy. Cookie-cutter neighborhoods and apartment complexes are popping up everywhere as well. Clearly, the effects of deforestation, for example, is having a lasting impact on the biodiversity of many species across the planet. According to scientists, we are in the midst of a mass extinction level event, the die-off of several different forms of life. And who's the cause? Us. But who's also the solution? Modern life also creates cities that are poorly engineered, which leads to poor public transportation, excess traffic, and terrible drainage, and random developments all for real estate, which is not at all in alignment with the methodical planning which could be reflected in some of the greatest civilizations throughout history. For Christ's sakes, our government outlaws collecting rainwater and imposes unconstitutional building codes to limit us from breaking free from the sterile congestion of the modern life. They outlaw unpasteurized cow's milk, and anything natural and organic is a much higher price than the poison crops that they sell to us for much cheaper. I was told that this was the land of the free when I was younger, but as I grow up, all I see is unnecessary authority. We literally aren't free. We are all forced to assimilate to the modern way of life. And another scam is the health stores and restaurants are under much more scrutiny by the Department of Health. And there's really no such thing as owning land because we all have to pay land taxes, which is basically rebranded rent. Speaking of taxes, did you know that shit is theft? Legal theft. The Federal Reserve and the IRS should not be given the power that we give them. They tax you 3 times on all your purchases, on the road and when you're trying to park your vehicle, and then all the income that you make they tax as well. We are getting boned so hard and most people just don't even realize, and they just take it. Everyone's mind is elsewhere, anywhere but here. We have all just accepted the status quo, and anyone that questions the need to evolve from this point in human history is cast out into oblivion by those too scared to confront the gravity of reality. Money is God in today's culture. We teach our children that they need it like they need food and water, that money comes before everything, down to sacrificing the precious time we have with each other. It's just a conveyor belt that we can't seem to get off of. And where that conveyor belt is going? Calamity? Maybe. Disaster? Undeniably. And speaking of time, when we do have time, we don't even know what to do with ourselves. Modern life conditions us to constantly seek stimulation. We don't understand the necessity of boredom, that which is the fertilizer of all creativity. So we waste our free time distracting ourselves, because today's world teaches us to disassociate rather than to just be. Why do you think the artists suffer the most? Because our society is formed by pricks who lack spirit, and everything this modern world stands for stands against the creative, or at least leeches off the creativity of the artist. Nothing is built by design in today's world to ensure that the creativity can thrive. Why is that? Because the right way of thinking is not logical. So we think that it has no place as a priority in our logically created society. Thus, creativity gets put on the bottom of our priorities. Ironically, our society is not as left-brained and logical as we think it is. It's pretty fucking nuts. We build cities that are straight and rectangular and sterile, and in my opinion, this adds to the growing sense of anxiety that we all feel. Because in nature, there are no straight lines. You see, we think that we're separate from this world, but we are born from it, out of it. For example, people who live in homes that have more curvature and a circular design report to have much less anxiety because their house's design mimics the design of nature. You see, we think we don't have these primal instincts, but we do. It's no wonder everyone's just trying to survive and we all struggle to be happy. We have taken the very essence, creativity, which is the pinnacle of all of life force, I would say, and highly disregarded its place within our lives. We really aren't that advanced. We mope around in stoops of sophistication because we are in denial of our own predicament, what some would refer to as our human condition. Instead, we could actually work together to make a life that's more incongruent with our own biology and the environment. I'm not saying we should live in tents, but I do wonder if building more habitable environments for ourselves, such as cob houses, earthships, and dome homes, and using better concrete, such as Roman concrete, would make our architecture last longer and be more beautiful, which would reflect in us. What I see is a loss of simple old knowledge in the very design of our world. And not because we forgot, but because we tried to fix things that weren't broken. We tried to reinvent the wheel, per se, in a lot of today's innovations, instead of reflecting upon what we can practically use within our own environments to reach our goals. The scams go down even to how we live. I mean, just really think about it. We wake up, and we go chase the dollar, and then when it's all said and done, we come home, we can actually allow ourselves to relax. But wait, actually all those steps forward are 2 steps backwards because we realize, oh wait, I have to develop myself as a person. I have to become more aware and grow emotional intelligence. I have to heal. There's no time for that as we scroll on our phones. We used to be much more connected with each other, do you remember? We used to really communicate and get really excited to spend time with each other. And now everyone's busy trying to do everything on their own, and I'm definitely at fault for this one. I love my independence and solitude, but even I can see the faults of that absolute way of life. We really need each other to thrive. However, the way we live is in direct opposition to that need for each other. Look, I'm not speaking from a high horse here, but I fall for the same pitfalls myself. I'm just ultra aware of all the simple radical changes we can make today to make our lives a lot better. I'm just stating the facts. The fact is that we have systems in place to allow predatory people to suck the life force off of mankind. We are all distracted by political theater through this election, while the Federal Reserve takes actionable steps towards implementing a mass surveillance state of epic proportions, and we all just accept it. What do we do? I feel like as an individual, I have no real choice, but I know that if we came together and made our voices heard, we could really shift the tide and take the power back. Like, everyone's just selling out and surrendering to tyranny, and it fucking aggravates my soul. Which leads me to my last and final scam for this video. The Constitution and the Bill of Rights, which have been extremely impeded on and downright disregarded by legislative representatives. Like, none of it means anything anymore. I'll say this, that my God-given rights are non-negotiable boundaries that I'm going to start implementing with this evil and ignorant force that controls this world. And I invite you to do the same. And I cannot stress this enough, how important it is for you to voice your discontent with the way things are. Okay? Speak to your family, speak to your friends, speak to your community. Share this video so that people can start waking up and thinking for themselves. It is my hope that you got something from this that you can think about. There is hope and many alternative solutions, but it takes us putting in the work to, number 1, educate ourselves, and number 2, organize in mass formation. People think that it's impossible, and they think that they've given up on that idea that people can come together because there's such a huge rift between America right now. But I think that we all share so many things, and the media programs us to see the differences in someone initially versus what we actually share in common. There's a lot of common ground to be had, and I really invite you to think about what things you have in common with the opposite of you. Like, say, you're this label, and then the opposite of that label, the one that you can't stand, maybe. Like, think about how you have similarities with these people. Don't just immediately think about your differences, because you are actually being programmed this way. And this is by design, because they want to ensure their divide and conquer tactics to keep us disempowered and to further implement their agenda. This list is just the tip of the iceberg of what's wrong with modern society. I really just want to get back to simpler times, and I think we all do. And the fight to get back to that life is a worthy battle. But I feel that we are set up for failure by the way this whole system is rigged, and I am tired of it. This will probably be a part 1 of a series of videos, but for now, thank you for watching.